Hello and welcome to Honest Faith Conversations. I'm your co-host, Miguel Covarrubias.
And I am Kathy Covarrubias. And today, let's talk about A Muppet's Christmas Carol. Or The Muppet's Christmas Carol.
The Muppet's Christmas Carol.
Sorry.
We probably need to look up the title beforehand.
That's all right.
And write it down.
Okay, it's so old that you just say Muppets and Christmas Carol together, people are going to know what you're talking about.
Yeah, almost immediately. So, again, this is part of our holiday extravaganza for all of you. And this is not a religious denominational holiday extravaganza by any means, even though we are coming at it from a Christian perspective. So we are kind of focusing on Christmas themed movies.
Yeah, well, and let's be honest, we all know that there's a general lack of other holiday movies.
Well, I mean, 8 Crazy Nights is out there for Hanukkah. I don't know any other Hanukkah movies besides like the Goldbergs' Hanukkah special every year.
Yeah, but that's not really a movie.
Yeah, it's a TV show. Other than that, I can't say any other holiday specials.
I'm sure, well, kind of Frosty the Snowman, I guess, but he still talks about Christmas. But Frosty himself isn't really a Christmas character. He's more like a winter holiday character, I guess.
And Christmas Vacation, he does talk about a Yule log, but that's a that's a different holiday tradition that has nothing to do with Christmas.
Yep.
And even though Christmas, here's the factoid for you: Christmas was banned in the United States by Christians.
It's a true story.
And so there you go. And
this was obviously a long time ago, but
yep. So that whole war on Christmas thing, it was started by Christians. So I don't know what you're talking about. Anyway, happy holidays to all of you who are out there. Even no matter what faith tradition you now currently associate yourself with, happy holidays to you. I know that there are a ton of holidays that are being celebrated at this time of year. So happy holidays to you. And since it's in the middle of Hanukkah, happy Hanukkah.
Well, actually near the end of Hanukkah.
Near the end of Hanukkah.
But that's okay. Happy Hanukkah.
Happy Hanukkah. I don't know the proper Jewish word for happy Hanukkah.
I don't know why you're looking at me.
I'm just seeing if you knew it. All right, so review and summary of A Muppet's Christmas Carol. Would you like to start with a summary, or my summary is really short?
Go ahead. You're good.
All right, we have the Charles Dickens classic Christmas Carol with Muppets, with some added Muppet songs thrown into the movie. Gonzo plays Charles Dickens.
No, Gonzo is Charles Dickens.
Okay, sorry. Gonzo is Charles Dickens.
Yeah, that's the summary. I don't know what else to add to it. Besides, it's essentially a Christmas Carol, but with Muppets and songs.
Yeah, if you have not yet seen...
And two Marleys instead of just one.
Exactly. And if you have not yet seen any reproduction of A Christmas Carol, this is a good one because it does stick rather close to the source material. Many TV shows have done a Christmas Carol theme. A lot of shows have done an It's a Wonderful Life theme, and we'll talk about that in 2 weeks. A lot of shows have done this particular theme as well, which we're going to be discussing through the Muppets version of it because...
It's my favorite movie. Well, holiday movie.
Well, and that brings us to our review, which is I've always loved The Muppets Christmas Carol. I think it's one of the better Christmas movies out there, better holiday movies, because I think that Charles Dickens understood what Christianity was about, what the gospel was about, and that we'll talk about that here in just a minute. But I really enjoyed it because I love the songs. The songs incorporate the theme so very perfectly, and it's not... I mean, it's still to the point where it's kind of scary because of ghosts and everything else. Like the Ghost of Christmas Future is still terrifying, but it's not as scary as some of the other adaptations of it. Yeah. Like Scrooged with Bill Murray. That one is absolutely terrifying. Like, even as a teenager watching that, I was like, no, this is still terrifying. Like, that Ghost of Christmas Future is, like, absolutely one of the worst of all time, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, I remember as a kid all of the versions of Christmas Carol that I actually watched. Like, I hated that part. I would always just like turn and like pretend like it wasn't on, and I would like do something else until the scene passed.
Yeah.
And then I would come back and I'd watch it, and it'd be fine.
I do love Scrooged, though. Scrooged is one of my favorite adaptations of the story. Mm-hmm. What is your review?
Again, I also love it. It is one of those holiday movies that it's an essential to watch, like around this time. I think that it's good for kids. It's good for adults. That's, I think, another reason why I like it, because even as an adult, I enjoy it. I don't watch it necessarily for the nostalgia factor anymore. Now I can enjoy it now as an adult in a different way than when I was younger.
Yeah, that's very true. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's one of the reasons why this is one of Dickens's classics. Why it's a timeless classic is because it incorporates themes that I think last a long time. Mm-hmm. It's very, very much, especially in the phrase that Scrooge says, that he's going to keep Christmas all year long. And in this movie adaptation of it, of the Muppetized version of Are They a Man or Are They a Muppet? Sorry, I had to call out to that Muppet movie. But, is really in... This is what I mean by the songs incorporated very, very true to the whole idea of the theme, was that Christmas is about caring and sharing, is more about that compassion for all human beings, mm-hmm. and not just those who are important to you. And I think Charles Dickens went to great lengths to show this character as Ebenezer Scrooge as this pitiful man that has no real person to hold on to, and that so therefore he doesn't really have a family except for his nephew, which I'm sure that Kathy's going to talk about here in just a little
mm-hmm.
bit. But and I think that it really goes to show that you don't need that family to really celebrate this holiday, to really celebrate what it means to be a Christ follower. And I think this is very evident in this work here, is that he's showing that it's not about collecting things for yourself. It's not about being selfish. It's about giving all that you can to everyone around you. And I think the whole transformation thing is very important for Ebenezer, but it's also very important for us to remember nowadays, and especially with these characters, like I said, that it's a very timeless work, because I think we see it playing out now in our society so readily. Mm-hmm. I mean, look at the and I know I try not to be partisan in my politics on the radio show here, but I'm pretty sure that you guys can judge that I am sort of partisan on some of my issues.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Through some of the episodes, but I think here, especially with the tax plan that was just presented and now again has been agreed upon by both the House and the Senate, that you can see that it's desperately needed for, I guess, those who are in power and leadership to have a Christmas Eve experience with three ghosts of past, present, and future, so that they can see that they're really not. They're not in line with this whole Christmas ideal or this Christian ideal. Mm-hmm. And I find it funny that so many evangelicals, and this is something I'll get into in our Where Should We Go From Here part, but that evangelicals say that you should keep the Christ in Christmas, yet they themselves are pulling it out by putting selfish restrictions upon it.
Yeah.
And I think this is very true of who Ebenezer is, as well, is that he's not known for his religious ideologies or anything else like this, but he's more business minded. And I think this is what many have become, well, within the church or within the evangelical church, it's become a business. Mm-hmm. It's not a religious organization anymore. It's a business. And this is one of my biggest critiques of the modern church, is that it's become about the business of doing church rather than rather than being Christian, rather than doing the work of Christ that Christ taught us to do.
Yeah,
I'm sorry this is more of a rabbit trail for me on this, but I think that ultimately it's about keeping Christ in Christian instead. Is that keeping the holiday all year through is that's what it means, is by doing that. It's compassion for your fellow man, is by feeding the hungry, clothing the naked, taking care of the sick, visiting the prisoner, housing the homeless. All of these things that through Ebenezer's transformation he sees that he needs to be doing, and especially through Tiny Tim. And this is more than just the season of the heart. And this is one of the things that I love about the Muppets adaptation in particular is the Ghost of Christmas Present. And I know that for me, we talk about dream roles with actors sometimes. For me, I always like secondary roles in shows, like, for instance, Romeo and Juliet. I don't want to be Romeo. I want to be Mercutio. He has the best lines in the entire show. And for me, I want to be the Ghost of Christmas Present. That is another dream role of mine, is because I really enjoy that character, because that character is jolly, is really about the Christmas present. And that's really what I think that nowadays is what I'm coming to find, is that really being present in the moment, it's very important for everything, especially in the season. And this was part of his song with Ebenezer, was it's the season of the heart. It's the season where, it's people are singing on street corners, coming from the street corner choir to people giving gifts to one another, to, that meager meal that the Cratchits have, and that they're enjoying it nonetheless. And that Tiny Tim is still blessing Ebenezer Scrooge despite the fact that he is kind of, what is seen as a horrible and shrill person.
Yeah.
And for me, I love that. I love that character because I think that he is the embodiment of what I think God's love is like. Is that it's present here in the moment. It's the importance of the now. It's the importance of helping those that are around you.
Well, and he's doing it joyfully too. He's not doing it because
this
is what I gotta do. He's wanting to do it. He's wanting to give and to experience the joy that it is to give to others.
Exactly, and it's the season of the heart. And I think that so many times is that we do use this time of year, the holiday season, to be that generous, to be that giving and outgoing, when really it should be the whole year round that we do this. And that's the whole message of the Gospels. That's the whole message of Jesus, this guy that we call Christ. That, it shouldn't, that's why Christmas is, especially that, it's that, I used to a whole lot when I worked for the church criticize those people who only showed up at church on Christmas and Easter, which I've slowly become now. But I used to criticize those people, but really, in essence, I think that they got it a little bit more than other people did. It is now I'm beginning to see that, that is the time when it is about other people, but it's the rest of the year that they're out there, they're doing things, they're making sure that their life is lived in a good way, and that they help those around them rather than just in one season of the year.
Well, and I want to bring up too that charities, especially those that really, really need volunteers, get such an overflow of people wanting to volunteer during the holiday season. But during the rest of the season, they're struggling to get people to volunteer.
Exactly.
Because people only feel I helped on Christmas, so check mark on that. I can just go about living my life.
Yeah, Thanksgiving and Christmas are the number one holidays for volunteers.
Yeah.
And those are the only times that people volunteer.
And I feel and people come out of those experiences. Hold on, excuse me. People come out of those experiences feeling so joyful that they did it and wanting to do it again, but they're I'll just wait until next Christmas. When it's why not? You enjoyed yourself. You admitted that you enjoyed it yourself. Why not come next Sunday? Why not come the next weekend? Why not just give a little bit more if you can't volunteer? You know? Mm-hmm. I don't know. That's my 2 cents on it.
Well, I also these are people that I highly respect that really do that really made their lives about giving everything that they could to those around them. Like for somebody that you should look up to really look into and how he's actually been doing it is Shane Claiborne, who has helped to start the neo-monastic movement, which is out of Philadelphia, which they've done quite a bit. In fact, just recently, he was arrested in Washington, D.C. for sitting in for the Dreamers and for his protest against government policies against the Dreamers, against the Dreamer Act. And I really respect that, man, because he is, I really think, a picture of what Jesus would have been like. Mm-hmm. And I think this is evident in who Ebenezer becomes at the very end. This is another reason why I love the Muppet one, is because everyone is there at the end.
Yeah.
At the Cratchit's house. That is not just the Cratchits, but it's everybody from town.
Yep. I mean, heck, he gets the largest goose he could possibly get. Like, it's going to be so much left over. You know what I mean? Like, you might as well invite as many people as you can.
Well, and this is what I think is fantastic, is that that's what a community is. That's what community looks like. And I think that means so much more, gives so much more weight to Tiny Tim's words there at the end, is God bless us, everyone, when it is literally everyone. and I think that, I mean, this is everyone that you meet is a human being, is somebody who is worthy of love and acceptance and of, you know, that treating with respect. And I think that we so often forget that, because there are so many people in the world. There are close to 7 billion of us.
Yep. Even the Scrooges in the world?
Even the Scrooges in the world.
Well, okay, I guess. No, I'm just kidding. That was totally like a transition over to me. But, so I feel like after watching it this last time, just really thinking about it, I feel a lot more sympathy for Scrooge than I expected. And I feel like we all need to kind of be a little bit more sympathetic towards the Scrooges in our lives. The people who are like bah humbug to, you know, gift giving, and bah humbug to the holiday season. And I know a lot of people who automatically assume, like, the Scrooges of the world, they're all atheists, or atheists are all the Scrooges in the world. But that's not true. Like, I know a lot of atheists who still celebrate the holidays. They just do it in a little different way.
Well, as I just pointed out, the certain political party that has put forward a tax plan.
Yeah, but anyway.
They claim to be Christian. Which, I'm not anyone to say that they're not, but they don't act like it. No,
they definitely don't act like it. But I want to know why Scrooge is the way he is. I mean, he's so different from everybody else in town. Everybody points to him as being so different and so grumpy and so, like, this outcast, but nobody asks, like, why. They just say, this is him and he's a jerk. So
it's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy that people will live up to your expectations of him. That's what you're saying?
I guess. I'm just want to know why nobody has, like, asked him, hey, why do you feel this way? Like, why do you really feel this way? Instead of just like, okay, I guess that's Scrooge. That's how he is.
Yeah, well, I think his nephew, what is his nephew's name? Fred? Maybe. Anyway, his nephew is, you know, I think he tries with him.
Yeah, a little bit. But clearly Christmas, like, isn't as nearly as important to Scrooge as it is to everybody else. I think that part of the reason why we actually learn back when he goes into the past, into his childhood, we see him as a pupil, like, away at boarding school, the only one left at the school when everybody else has gone home for Christmas, and he's praised for staying at school and for, you know, finishing up his studies. But I want to know why he didn't go home. Like, if it's such an important holiday, like, why didn't his parents, like, pull him out of the school? Or why, I mean, he clearly has other relatives. Like, why didn't they, like, take him in for the holidays? Like, he clearly has not been shown how important it is to be at home with be at home for Christmas, like, be with folks. Mm-hmm. So then if he hasn't been shown that it's important, he's not going to know why other people feel that it's important.
Well, and I think this is something that I liked the Bill Murray version of this, is that from Scrooged, where his dad is an abusive alcoholic, mm-hmm. and that that Christmas gift that he got was an expensive cut of beef, which, what is a 7-year-old going to do with an expensive cut of beef?
Yeah. Yeah. And it also makes me wonder too, like, did Scrooge ever get anything? Like, I'm sure that his, ex-fiancee Belle, like, gave him Christmas gifts or whatnot, you know what I mean? But, mm-hmm. like, the way that he was raised is clearly different than the way other people were raised, especially when it comes to, like, money. Like, he's very, like, everybody, like, teases him for, being a penny pincher, and, like, he clearly has a lot of money, but he doesn't want to share it with anybody. But, yeah, in his eyes, everybody else is being frivolous with their money. Like, everybody else is spending money where they shouldn't, or everybody else is not thinking about the consequences of spending the money.
Yeah.
Like, he feels that people should be more responsible with their money, mm-hmm. so that's what he is doing. But in turn, they're making fun of him for doing what he thinks is best.
Yeah, and I see that as a good way to have empathy for Scrooge and for his mm-hmm. for his way of thinking as well. But I think that ultimately, and this is more of a dualistic, black and white kind of view of it, is that I think that it is kind of bad in a way to see other people as being frivolous with their money when they're doing things like that. But I think that's, like I said, it's a very simplistic, very easy mm-hmm. way of saying that it is bad, because, I don't know, it's black and white. It's not black and white, it's gray. That this is a very gray area, especially for Scrooge. Scrooge is a very gray area, as it were.
Well, and who knows? Like, it could be that maybe after this experience, he is a little bit more giving in terms of, like, his money, but he's also still has that knowledge of, like, I still needed to save up for when I'm old and can't work anymore.
Yeah.
So I don't think he's going to go, like, just toss out his money to everybody. I still think he's going to be saving, but I think he's going to be doing it in a way to where he's going to be a little bit more smart about it.
Yeah.
Because he realizes after experiencing or talking with Marley and Marley, he knows that saving up all that money isn't going to do him any good when he's dead. Mm-hmm. Like, what's the point of saving up the money and not spending it on anything if when he dies it's not going to go anywhere? Well, I guess it may go to his nephew. Maybe.
But, the Ghost of Christmas Future, you saw that that his stuff was picked through and,
yep. Well, because nobody was no one, like, respected him. Like, no one, when somebody dies, people usually don't go rummaging through their stuff, like, as soon as they die. I mean, the character even says, oh, his bed sheets are still warm.
Yeah.
Like, he just died then. Like, he literally just died, and people the same day are, like, going through his stuff. Like, that clearly shows the lack of respect that was given to him, as well as lack of respect that he gave to other people.
Yep.
If he was going to continue to go down that route. But I also think that we, as a society, kind of have to see the Scrooges out there and try to pick up a little bit more understanding of their situation and why they do, what they do.
Exactly.
Like,
which is why it's a gray area.
Yeah. And I think that, like, for us, like, we came into, like, when we first got together, like, we clearly had different, like, expectations of what Christmas should be. Like, me, like, growing up, like, we came kind of from, like, similar, like, financial backgrounds growing up, mm-hmm. but our parents handled it, like, differently. Like, my parents, when it came to Christmas, like, I always, I would get something that I, wanted, but I also got a lot of stuff that I needed. So, like, coats and boots and socks and underwear, and And that was kind of just expected. And I would get like one like really nice gift from Santa, and that was, that was about it. And then whereas your family, like during Christmas, it was like all stuff that you wanted, like not too much of anything that you needed.
Yeah.
And so we kind of had to like learn
to compromise.
on that. Yeah.
To be in between. You get some stuff that you want, some stuff that you need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I do think that the townsfolk should respect Scrooge just a little bit. I mean, it's hard to be frugal. It's hard not to want to spend your money, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, especially on stuff that you want. And look at the place that he lived in. Like, it was like his furniture was falling apart. He didn't have like hardly anything on the walls. Like, he kept himself cold on purpose so he could save money.
Yeah.
And that takes a lot of dedication in my book, especially because I need warmth. But I also think that you can still be that way and be frugal with your money, but still, help the homeless.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you can still be frugal all you want, but there's still other ways that you can do to show that you still care about your community.
Yes. And I think that, it's... Dickens's work here is more indicative of a capitalist economy rather than things like socialist economy, which is mainly what England kind of is a socialized economy.
Well, it is now.
Yeah, and I think that there are ways that economies kind of do work out. Well, they work out pretty well on paper, but when it comes to people, that it doesn't really work out completely well in that way.
Ooh, you know what we can point out? Like when people argue trickle down, be like, look at Scrooge. He had all this money and he was not trickling down to anybody.
That's true. And that's what I'm saying, is that it's indicative of certain things that on paper, Scrooge is, he's just a normal old guy who's, frugal with his money.
Yep.
And, he's that people haven't really understood him his entire life because he's been more focused on other things, on business, on his career, and it just, things didn't play out right for him. Mm-hmm. And I think this is what makes him such a timeless character as well, is that he is sympathetic in that he is real. That you can see normal people like this because this is who they are. It's not about just because he didn't like Christmas, but he's never really understood it, just like people never really understood him.
Yeah, and I think that the reason why he kind of like pushed his nephew away was because like it kind of like surprised him. Like, why would you want me to come over for Christmas?
Yeah,
like that's weird. No. Thank you. And I think the reason why he also says no is because, well, he's always spent Christmas alone. Like, he doesn't, or working. Like, he doesn't feel like he has to spend time with family.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. That's just my 2 cents as to why he reacted the way he did with his nephew. However, his nephew did not have to be then mean at the Christmas party.
Yes. And play a game about him.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, an unwanted creature. Mm-hmm. So... and I think this is, the themes of Scrooge, of Christmas Carol, are compassion and love ultimately for your fellow man, and I think in that ultimately is a lot of understanding where people come from, why they are the way they are, and helping them to see that they do fit into the society. Like, for instance, Scrooge would have been a great person to be running like the accounts for the city or a community, is to be able to run those numbers, and I'm sure that he has a mind for those things, is to say, okay, this is not needed, it is frivolous, and then somebody who would be a counterpoint to him and say, okay, yes, it's frivolous, but this makes people happy.
Yeah. Or like even say, oh yeah, maybe you are righted a little bit, so let's just tweak it just a bit.
Yeah, is that compromise?
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think that ultimately that's what, any relationship within a community is about, is finding that balance and that compromise. Because if we were to go with anybody's set idea, then everybody's going to lose. Mm-hmm. It's because we only really imagine ourselves as being the only complex person.
Yep.
And that ultimately is what it came down to with him, is that Ebenezer only imagined himself as the only complex person.
Yep.
And I think that's what the whole story was about, is about him coming to understand the rest of the community as complexly as he understood himself.
Yep.
And he did so with Bob Cratchit, and he realized, oh, I'm paying Bob way too little.
Well, and I don't even think that he knew that Bob Cratchit had a son who was ill.
Yeah, or he really didn't imagine his family or anything else like that. Mm-hmm. Is because, he's an employee, and so he's just that two-dimensional creature to him.
Yep, he's a person that I pay to do work, and that's it.
Exactly. And I think this is the way that the church has become, is that the church has become very Ebenezer-like, and they don't understand their communities. Mm-hmm. They don't understand where they are, and they don't understand what they were supposed to be doing in the first place. So ultimately their goal has then thus become to keep their doors open, and therefore becoming very much like Ebenezer, is they don't understand the world as complexly as they understand themselves.
Yeah, because they're too focused on the bottom line ultimately.
Yeah, and this is especially true in the evangelical church, especially with the things like, the war on Christmas and all these other things that they say are happening, is that they're failing to understand the world as complexly as they understand themselves, because they see it as other. Is they don't have sympathy for the other.
Yep, exactly.
And I think this is very indicative of this whole thing, where now all of a sudden people are using Merry Christmas as an insult.
Yeah, exactly. Which happened to me. But, here in our family, yes, we'll say, Merry Christmas, but 9 times out of 10, if I'm talking with somebody, especially a stranger, I'll say Happy Holidays instead. Just because I know of, many people in the community, especially where we're at, actually celebrate Hanukkah. I actually know a few people who celebrate Kwanzaa instead. And, I know a few people who actually are more about Yuletide. So just because of that, I say Happy Holidays because I don't know. Yeah. I don't know what they celebrate. I can't assume that they're going to automatically celebrate Christmas, nor should I make them feel as though they should celebrate Christmas.
Well, and what's funny is that there are also different traditions for Christmas, for the Christmastide season that, are very indicative of where you grew up.
Yep.
Like, for instance, I have, just in my own cubicle area, my own sphere of influence there, is that there is the other Latina person that is in our cubicle area. She decorated for Christmas immediately the day after Halloween, which I'm like, hey, I did too. Maybe it's because of, we grew up in very Latin culture type places that, Christmas time is, a big time for us. And so we celebrated for more than just the month of December and January.
But you do. I did. Because I also go a little bit into January. But
yeah.
Anyway.
And, that we also, I have it's across from me is, it's a Muslim woman. So she was asking us all about, well, what is Christmas and why do you guys decorate your desks? Why do you guys do these things? And it was kind of funny that, some of the people around us couldn't really answer those questions. Why do you decorate? And some of the traditions thereof, and me, who is a religion nerd, was like, okay, well, this is where it came from, and this is why people do this. And then you have the person who sits almost right next to me, who was raised in the North, and she's very strict. You gotta decorate after Thanksgiving because Thanksgiving is its own holiday.
Mm-hmm. It is. Thanksgiving is its own holiday. I agree.
And she grew up in the Christian church, so she just knew what the Christian traditions were, and so that's why she didn't know any of the why the decorations, why the tree, why those things that, I know because I'm a religion and history nerd, is that I know where these things came from. I know what traditions they grew out of. And
well, think about it too. Like Christmas came out of Christianity. Where did Christianity come out of? The Middle East. There's no snow in the Middle East.
Yeah.
Like there's no evergreens in the Middle East. Like where do you think that came from? It came from the influence when Christians migrated up north, or conquered up north eventually.
Yeah.
They took influences from the culture that they overtook and incorporated it into Christmas.
Yeah. Well, the whole Saturnalia thing, and, we're not going to get into that in this episode, but, hey, maybe that's a future Christmas episode for us. Maybe next year we'll get on to the origins of Christmas, if there is such a movie or pop culture thing that we would actually talk about that.
We could just probably do a separate episode about it.
A separate episode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We'll call it Christmas Shorts, and then it'll be for our picture, will be a picture of Santa Claus shorts or something. Christmas shorts.
Christmas shorts.
So it would be a short, this is where Christmas came from.
Yes.
Hey, an idea for next year. There we go. Somebody's going to beat us to the punch, I'm sure.
Yeah, they're going to be like, that's a great idea, and then they're going to do it this year.
They're going to do it this year, and then, we're going to be like, oh, man. But anyway, the whole idea is compassion and love. And I think this is evident throughout the work. And no matter what adaptation of A Christmas Carol that you view, if you know the source material better than we do, great. Because, to be honest, I've never read the source material.
What? I was in my very first play was A Christmas Carol. And
yes,
I played Belle.
was it from the actual book adaptation? Or
It was the first play adaptation from the book.
Okay.
Yeah, so it wasn't like a musical, because I know that there's a musical Christmas Carol out there, but it wasn't that one. It was the original, very dry, very old English version, free, public domain, which is probably why we did it.
Yeah, that's the best way to do it instead of paying for the rights for any other show.
Yep.
So, the rights for the musical version.
Yes, probably. Yep.
Or the show that we met in, which is Antigone, which is an ancient Greek drama. So,
oh my goodness.
Yeah, there are no rights for that.
No.
But there are rights for certain adaptations of it.
Yes.
Anyway, in closing, our feedback schedule, things that are coming up soon. Next week will be Home Alone, which we are actually recording as soon as we're done recording this episode. So, if we sound the same, it's because we just finished recording this episode. But it will be published next week, so you will be able to listen to it next week on Christmas Eve. So we talk about that classic next week, or in just a few seconds for us.
Maybe should we publish it on Patreon early for those who want to become...
We can, so that our patrons can listen to it if we have zero. You can become one in the next week and actually listen to it early.
Yeah, if you want to become one, you can listen to our next week episode early.
Yeah, if you're that interested.
Yes.
What we have to say about Home Alone.
But please be that interested, because we would really appreciate it. Your Christmas gift to us.
Yeah, your Christmas present. Be like, hey, here you go. It is the season of the heart, after all.
Yes, it is the season of giving. I feel really bad about this.
But I wanted to listen to your episode about Home Alone early. Mm-hmm. So, all right. So we will do that. And then in 2 weeks, we will do It's a Wonderful Life. We will not record that until 2 weeks from now because we will be out with family celebrating the season with them.
Yep.
And then after that will be our top 10 of 2017, which will be... our top 10 episodes that we enjoyed doing this past year, and I'll be pulling snippets from each one of those, and we'll be continuing a little bit of the discussion from there.
Yep.
If you have any feedback about any of those shows, please give us a call at 720-372-3879, which means either the past episodes or the future episodes, or if you even want to tell us what your favorite episodes of ours were this past year, please do so. We'd be happy to share any of your thoughts on the air with us in 3 weeks. Also, you can find us on social media. We are on Facebook at facebook.com/Real Honest Faith. You can also find us on Twitter. We are at Real Honest Faith there. You can email us, honestfaithconvos@gmail.com. You can find us on Reddit, on Tumblr. You can also find us on our website, thehonestfaith.com. You can also find both of our personal Twitter handles and follow us on Twitter if you would like. I tend to use mine more than Kathy does, so.
But I use mine very cleverly, I like to think.
Yes, she does use hers very cleverly. And immediate spoilers from her account for things like Walking Dead or anything else like that.
Oh, yes. The Walking Dead mid-season premiere was last week.
Mid-season finale,
thank you, was last week. So, if you haven't already watched that, then don't go through my Twitter.
Don't go through her Twitter. And also, since we did that last year, that was our very first real episode, besides the explaining what we were doing in this podcast episode, was the mid-season finale of The Walking Dead last year, which was on the 15th. And so we celebrated 1 year of podcasting. So yay us! We have made it for an entire year.
We did it!
And we're still doing it. So yeah, we have.
And we're still married.
Yeah, we're still married. Yay! And actually, I've had a lot of fun. So we'll talk about that a little bit more in our top 10 of 2017 episode. So with all of that being said, we invite you to come and join the conversation.
Bye.